Imagine this. The global population has reached 8.08 billion, but what's truly astounding is that 5.35 billion people, 66.2% of the world, are now connected to the internet. But how? How did the internet evolve so dramatically? How did it reach and impact so many, embedding itself so deeply into our lives? What began as a simple tool is now the very fabric of our existence, shaping our thoughts and lives. It didn't just connect us, it consumed us, molding our opinions, desires, and dreams. This once humble network has become a global powerhouse, altering human history in ways we're only beginning to understand. How did something so seemingly harmless become the most powerful force in our lives? In this video, we're about to embark on a journey through the very fabric of time. We will explore the generational evolution, unraveling the threads of change, the struggles endured, and the victories claimed. The years 1946 to 1964 define the post-war baby boomer generation, when the United States saw a spike in its birth rate. The American economy flourished and supported larger families. Advances in technology made it easier to share ideas and culture, and space exploration took off. But the boomers era was also marked by great unrest. Americans born during this period were shaped by a world ravaged by a world war that included unimaginable mass genocide and the atom bomb. The hypocrisy of American freedom and democracy was exposed by African Americans who stood up against shameful racial injustice and inequality. And just as boomers were coming of age into adulthood, drafts for the Vietnam War began.
Baby boomers were one of the most influential generations in history. They changed American society and gave the next generations the cultural freedoms they enjoy. Without baby boomers, America wouldn't be as free or prosperous as it is today.
Generation X had a very different upbringing compared to their parents. During the 1960s and 70s, the divorce rate in the United States surged, leading to new family dynamics. At the same time, it became increasingly common for women to join the workforce instead of staying home. Because childcare programs were still uncommon, many Generation X kids spent a lot of time unsupervised, as their parents were often at work when they came home from school. This situation led to the term latchkey being used to describe this group, referencing the key that children carried or retrieved from under the doormat to unlock the door. During this period, the rise of crack cocaine and the emergence of the AIDS crisis also left their mark. Additionally, this generation was one of the most diverse in history, partly due to increased immigration and being the first to grow up after the end of the Jim Crow laws. Generation X was often criticized as being dissatisfied, apathetic, cynical, and lazy. They were known as the MTV generation, growing up with the rise of music videos, grunge, and hip-hop. They were seen as rebellious and reluctant to embrace adulthood. However, when Generation X eventually did grow up, they defied these negative stereotypes. In many ways, the latchkey generation developed a strong work ethic and independence because they had to rely less on their parents, which contributed to their later success. While Millennials and Generation Z are often associated with their deep connection to the internet and technology, it was actually Generation X that first grew up with computers and video games at home. Many members of Generation X went on to become the pioneers of modern technology in Silicon Valley, leading the economic recovery of the 1990s. Having grown up in an analog world before the advent of personal computers, Generation X has a unique ability to connect the past with the future. I believe this is a key reason for their success, though it may also be why they often go unnoticed today. Many people now take for granted the significant changes brought about by Generation X. Their demand for VHS tapes to watch movies and shows at home whenever they wanted laid the groundwork for today's streaming services like Netflix. Generation X was also the first to start blogging about their lives, with Z Frank pioneering vlogging even before YouTube became popular with the show.
It's just like TV, but with pimples.
And while millennials are often associated with social media, it was actually Generation X that founded some of the earliest platforms like MySpace, Twitter, and Friendster, which later inspired Facebook. However, the true test for Generation X is just beginning as more members step into top leadership roles in the corporate and political arenas. The world was waiting for an even better generation, the most remarkable in the history of humanity. Between 1980 and 1994, Generation Y was born. The children of the 80s, the best years of our lives. And so they grew up hearing from their parents.
Study hard to guarantee the future I never had. Today I work hard at a company so that you don't lack for anything. One day you will be the owner of a company.
Generation Y grew up believing that at 18, they would get their first job and at 30, they would be completely independent. But the harsh reality?
They still live with their parents.
The generation to which much was promised, but nothing was given. A university degree no longer guarantees a job, and a job no longer guarantees stability, and stability is no longer synonymous with happiness. So where did we go wrong? We spend our lives hearing "don't settle for less, challenge your limits." Your parents believed in you, but you don't believe in yourself. The boomers believed in the Xers, and the Xers believed in the Ys, but the Ys became the disillusioned ones. But why? Where did we fail? Millennials grew up surrounded by optimism, their childhoods shaped by a globalized world, fueled by the arrival of groundbreaking technologies like smartphones and the internet, and bolstered by political and economic stability. But when they reached the age to enter the workforce, they were met with a historic financial recession.
They're gonna lose their houses, they're gonna lose their jobs. This is like the end of capitalism. This is like the Dark Ages all over again.
The financial crisis of 2008, deemed by some experts as the worst financial disaster since the Great Depression, dragged on for at least 3 years, triggering a global recession. It devastated countless countries, some of which have yet to recover. By 2009, global unemployment soared to 10%, hitting young people the hardest. Millennials were between 18 and 28 years old, many of them having completed their studies and standing ready for the job market. Those who were lucky enough to land a job were compelled to settle for meager earnings as they watched their dreams fade into the distance. Just as the world seemed on the brink of regaining its footing, the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, abruptly halting the fragile recovery. The time between the Great Recession and the onset of the pandemic proved to be too short for a full return to normalcy. Many were still trying to find their footing when the pandemic unleashed a new wave of economic and social disruption. The pandemic triggered a global crisis that once again upended lives, with lockdowns, job losses, and a shift to remote work fundamentally altering the way people lived and worked. For a generation already reeling from the aftereffects of the Great Recession, this was yet another blow, a reminder that the world they were trying to rebuild could still be shaken at any moment. The brief period of relative stability between these two crises was not enough for the wounds of the Great Recession to fully heal. Instead, the COVID-19 pandemic compounded the challenges, leaving an entire generation to navigate a landscape marked by uncertainty and change, with the goalposts for normalcy continually shifting further away.
What our parents told us what our adult life should be, it just didn't work out.
And now we stand at a crossroads. As we navigate this digital landscape that has redefined our reality, we must ask ourselves, are we controlling the internet, or is it controlling us? The story isn't over, it's just beginning. If you found this journey insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join us as we continue to explore the forces shaping our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.